I'm with Peter Campbell of Red Wagon Pizza today, and we are letting people in and out of his restaurant. Thank you very much for being on. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
That's right. You're in Minnesota. Did you fly here?
I think I did. Okay. I may have teleported.
All right. I like it.
Why did you decide to open up in this specific location of Minneapolis?
Oh, there's so many different reasons. We started the business at a farmer's market nearby, right in Linden Hills Farmer's Market. Every Sunday we operated for 2 years. And this is still close enough to that marketplace where we established our brand and also within the same demographics of the customer base.
I love that. You said something in an earlier podcast about having your demographic research, and we're going to talk about that later in the conversation when we get into the event room. So stick around for that. It's going to be an amazing episode.
Let's hope so. I mean, no promises. We're going to do our best. That's all we can do is do our best. It starts with wheat, in my opinion. So we use a heritage wheat that has never been messed with. Same way we grow chickens in half the time that are 3 times the size. We've done the same thing with wheat in this country. So we use heritage wheat. We work with Bakersfield Flour here in Minneapolis. And they partnered with us and 2 farmers, one in North Dakota, one in Wisconsin, that makes our core flour, which is Rough Rider, along with Red Fife. And we use a sifted Red Fife and a whole grain Red Fife in certain percentages. And that flour goes from a wheat berry into a dough ball in about 3 days' time. So the style of pizza itself, though, started with my family when I was a kid, making pizzas in Detroit with my mom and dad. The style of pizza I made as a kid, though, is not this. This has evolved over time. It's improved over time. In fact, the same pizza, while it is pretty much the same from day one, it has gotten better every year because every year I have a different crop of flour. This year we're using Rough Rider as our primary flavor profile, and 2 years ago we were using a different variety of flour. We try to maintain the flavor profiles, but it's usually very different from season to season. Commodity flour we build flavor into, right? There's no real flavor or nutritional value in a commodity flour. So, and this is all opinions, man. I'm wrong. Tell everybody listening I'm wrong. And they can tell me I'm wrong, but I have my opinion on it. It's not right, it's my opinion. When it comes to commodity flour, you build flavor into it. Thus, long poolishes, fermentation programs, all of those things are designed, in my opinion, to build flavor into an otherwise flavorless product, commodity wheat that's been harvested, sat in a shipping container, or it came from Italy or wherever, and it's not very fresh. We use fresh ingredients. We use fresh flour. Like I said, it goes from a wheat berry through a stone mill in less than 3 to 4 days. I don't get flour by the pallet. I get 2 deliveries a week by the bag.
So in terms of mobile catering, one of the reasons why I really wanted you on the show is to talk more about it. And we're going to talk about it in the event space in a deeper dive, but how often do you go out for these catering events?
So we'll do 5 to 7 events a week in June.
That's beautiful. With one truck?
With one truck.
Do you ever think about getting a second truck?
No.
No.
Because I need it in June. I don't need it in any other month of the year.
Yeah.
So instead, we just made smart modifications to make this more user-friendly.
Yeah. Show me the modifications that you...
So this box used to have a ramp on the other side that would take the refrigerator that we'd roll up a ramp, and it would break people in half. It was so hard to do events. We could only do like 1 event a day.
Wow.
And if our peak season's June,
it's hot.
Doing 1 event a day when I could do 3 events a day if I was more efficient and smarter about the whole setup. So instead of adding an oven, I took the existing oven we had and I used 3 different fabricators to basically cut the oven up to make it better and easier for the team to work the event. So where we used to push the fridge up into the box of the trailer, we now have a 2,500 pound cantilever drawer that I pull out and then plug in. I have a table here that I click in that allows me to be my spin table. and then my tent I pop, and I build the kitchen wherever we go. So we're not a food truck, we're a pop-up kitchen.
Instead of hauling everything in and out, it's super accessible.
Super accessible, because when we're done with the event, slide that in, take my power cords. Now I can run the power cords into the trailer, and that's what I want to improve next, because right now it's a little janky trying to get these two things plugged into the inverter in the van. I want to do one of those like quick connects that like a semi truck has, and I found a guy to do it, but it's been busy on the road, so I haven't had a chance to.
The inverter in the van, how many watts does that power?
I don't know, thousands. I have lots. I've got 2 marine batteries that are tied into my alternator, and then I have a massive inverter. It's about this big, and it's bolted to the side of a.
And it's powering some refrigerators.
3 refrigerators. It powers.
That's impressive.
And then once we get to the property, we can plug into someone's home, or in the tongue of the trailer, I have a Honda generator that I can pull out. I have a 100-foot cord that I can then get away from the event so it's not too loud, and rip it and power everything I need to power.
Excellent.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
It's a really fun way to do catering that doesn't break you in half.
There's this like thing about mobile catering where you have to touch everything 4 times, from the commissary to the truck, from the truck to the space, and then back.
Yeah, not here.
No.
Not here. We will load by the cooler that I showed you that has the back door. So we'll roll the van in, we load the trailer, we load all the food and the mise en place on the line, wrap the line, off to the events we go. We'll go back to back. So I'll wrap this line when we leave, refrigerated, running down the road. At the end of that event, I'll flip the line, all the mise because I'm going to make different food at the next event. We have the core pizzas we make at every event, and then we have 2 specialty pizzas. So if the 2 specialty pizzas have been flipped, I have the backups for that for the next event in the refrigerator on the van. Or in some cases, my flip where I go from one event to the next is so tight, I need to throw more resources at it. We'll have my team come down and we'll do a little Indy 500 flip where it's just all hands. Yep. Yeah. And we'll get out of there in 15 to 20 minutes.
That's genius. I like that. All right. Tune in more for the deeper dive on mobile catering in just a second. We're going to go ahead and go over to the event space.
Right on.
Let's talk about pan pizzas for a quick second. What are you using to press out your dough? I found out that whatever fat you use greatly affects the flavor of your pizza. And that is why the only brand I trust with my pizza is Cordo olive oil. Taste is everything, and other brands and other fats pale in comparison. Do you want to taste the difference? Go to cordo-olive.com using the link in the show notes. You can purchase a bottle there, or if you're an operator, you can get a free tasting. Just message me and I'll connect you with them. I'll leave my contact in the show notes. Thank you, Cordo Olive Oil, for sponsoring the podcast. One of the things pizza makers spend the most money on is cheese. Every time I have a catering event, cheese is my biggest ingredient cost. But what if I told you there's a cheese company out there that lets you earn cash back for every pound of cheese purchased? I'm talking about Bacio Cheese. And their Gold Club Rewards members receive their rewards card every month that can be used wherever Visa is accepted. So the more cheese you buy, the more you can earn. Literally, you get paid to use Bacio Cheese. Now that is cool. Learn more at Bacio Cheese using the link in the show notes. If I haven't said it before on camera, I want to make sure I say it. Peter is a restaurateur. You're a pizza maker. You have a beautiful space, and you're, I would say, you're very innovative.
Well, I mean, I didn't innovate pizza. It's 16th century peasant food. Like, it was well before I got involved.
I think what I consider as innovative is you're always trying to figure out what can I do to level up and grow and expand and be the best that I can be for my community, for the people that I serve.
Yeah.
I fuck with that.
Thank you for saying so. That's very kind of you. I think that we should all live that way. You know, celebrate what we have and try to make it better every day.
It's one thing to think and say, I want to live that way. It's the other to actually do and execute.
Huh. Well, thanks.
Who knew?
I don't know any other way. I think sometimes it can be a negative thing. I mean, there comes a point where like maybe you don't need to keep trying to fix something if it's not broken. So trying to pick what you're going to improve, I think matters. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, because we only have so many hours in the day. We have a limited life.
Yeah.
But what I think matters even more is the why behind it and your mission.
Yes.
And I want to give a shout out to Eric Cacciatore, Restaurant Unstoppable, for really going deep with you on the podcast. And you gave me this like heart-wrenching moment where you talked about your disease and you talked about having a piece of you live on forever through Red Wagon Pizza. And to me, the fucking word legacy just means so damn much.
I appreciate that. I might also add, I'm really happy you swore there, because now the gates have been opened by saying, fuck, I feel like now I'm more comfortable.
Good.
And so pants off, and the use of foul language, I think, is going to make this quite an entertaining
A-okay.
experience. Obviously, I'm joking around. My pants are on. For now.
Subscribe to the OnlyFans.
yes, only dough. So I think you raise an interesting notion that why do we do a thing that we do? Are we doing it because we want it to live on? Are we doing it because we're pursuing something more than just the money it gives us for its task, right? Like, I don't do this just because it helps pay the mortgage. I do this because I really love the connection it creates with the people in my life. And I think that we all do that thing. Like, whether it's you, your podcast, what you're pursuing with your own pizza adventure, you're doing it because you are craving a purpose, and that purpose is what you get when you do these things, when you're doing this podcast, when you're doing your events, when you're investigating kind of the passions around pizza. That's filling a different cup for you, because I would imagine that what this pays you, or what your pizza events pay you, will likely really dim by comparison to what it fills you in here. So that's no different than me. We're the same, right? And I think it's about figuring out, how do we tap into that? How do we break the mold of this concept? I'm right out of high school. I have to go get a 4-year degree. I have to go get a master's degree. I have to do these things. That makes sense if you're going to be a doctor, or you're going to be a lawyer, or you want to be a mechanical engineer or a master electrician. Certain training is required. But we have this culture now in our country where if I'm done with high school, I have to go do these things so someone else approves of my ability to go get a job. And I think we should break that mold. And I think we break that mold by inspiring young people, getting them to tap into what really fills their cup, not from a financial resource perspective, but from a soul perspective. Not that they need to decide that what they're going to do for the rest of their lives tomorrow. They do need to decide what they're going to do next year, today.
And I think they should decide that based on what they like to do.
Right.
And not what society places on them as an expectation.
Or what the society places on them as a value.
As a value. Ooh. That's tough.
Yeah.
People look down on restaurant.
I don't even fucking make deep dish pizza, and look at me go. We're going deep, baby.
We're in there.
The face and the fingers on the table made it a little uncomfortable, I'll be honest.
Tune in on YouTube if you're not already, so you can get uncomfortable with us. But look, I am the biggest proponent of doing what you love and going out there. I still work a full-time job. Unfortunately, I don't like the word grinding it out, but I feel like it's a grind at times to be able to put out a weekly show, do pizza, create content, all of that. And you were just talking about how you barely got any sleep, like this whole week, because of everything.
Not in a negative way, though. Just I'm not myself. I'm a little,
but I guess
little kooky right now.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, it's tiring work.
It is, but everything's tiring. We're old. We get old, and it's harder to do things. You also have to make hay while you can. So we have tough winters where January is really hard to get through. And then January is over. We slowly go into spring. Tough spring sometimes, sometimes it snows here in April. But when summer hits, our community gets so used to being tucked away at home that they want to get out, they want to gather, they want to have their friends, they want to have parties, and that's when they come here. My dining room is, 80 seats inside. It used to be 50. We've expanded. We have probably 90 seats outside, so my capacity nearly doubles. And a completely separate arm of my operation commences with the advent of the mobile oven being able to drive around without snow on the ground. So we get to a point where it's just kind of bananas, and it's awesome. It's sometimes physically painful, but it's awesome.
You talk about how you do $90,000 a week.
Up to, that's like our high water mark in like June.
Up to $90,000
about
a
90,
week in June.
And then as low as 14 in January.
Literally feast or famine.
Yes. With a consistent product every day, with a team that can execute every day as consistently as humanly possible, with that ebb and flow of revenue. I mean, it's a wild animal.
Yeah.
And it's fun. And you used the word grind and how you said, I forget what you said, I apologize, but there would seem to be like a negative connotation to the use of the word grind.
Yes.
I don't think it's a negative thing. I have a very good friend. His name's Bobby the Butcher Marcotte. Long time diners, drive-ins, and dives, grocery games, homie of mine. We've traveled the world cooking together. Arguably one of my closest friends on the planet. And he has a thing that he says all the time. It's always grinding. And I think a little of that has to do with the fact that he's a butcher. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you grind it out, man. You got to get in and decide that you're in the fucking game every day. And even if it's a grind, suit up and get in it. Because if you don't, why go to the game? Like, why even act like you're present?
You think like Kobe and LeBron are grinding it out?
Are they basketball players? I don't know fuck all about sports, dude.
What?
Yeah, I do. But I do.
Do you
Athletes,
think Thomas Keller's grinding it out?
Absolutely.
But do you think he himself would describe his work as a grind, or is it more?
No, not this stage in his career. Absolutely not. I think
but
that
he had grinded. It
he did not get to where he is today without grinding it out. Gavin Kaysen, local legend here in town, he grinds it out every day. Every day. That dude's a fucking machine. You have to grind it out. I don't think there's a negative connotation to it. I think it's a positive one. What we do is hard. I have no secrets. You want the recipes? Call me. I'll give you all my recipes. You want to do this? It's fucking hard.
It's fucking hard.
You got to grind it out.
You do.
And it's not just the recipes that achieve it. It's the fact that I am me, and this place looks the way it does, and it smells the way it does, and all of the little nuances and all the little details mean something to me. And thank God, somehow, the community at large, the consumer that comes in here every week, have identified with that, and they want more of it. Thank heavens. I'm not for everybody, but the 500 people on Friday night that come in my doors, I'm for them, and they want to come back tomorrow.
Yeah. I think to achieve a lot of things in life, a grind is required. And maybe it comes back to that notion of some people would rather just say enough is enough. And maybe that's the association with the grind.
Sure.
Is that we're chasing all the time.
And I think the question is, what are you chasing? I teach classes here. They're called Pizza with Pete. I do them online, I do them here. The first thing I always do, because there's so many opinions when it comes to pizza, I say, I'm not suggesting the way I'm going to explain how I make pizza is the right way or the only way. It's not the perfect way. There is no such thing as perfection. There is the pursuit of it. And I can show you how I have achieved my level of skill and what I know today. And I hope tomorrow I'll be 2% better at what I'm about to show you. But where I was a year ago is different than where I am today, because I'm always improving. But it's not perfect. That's not a rung on the wall to reach for.
The 2% better every day that you live by is amazing. My motto, actually, it was a motto that was instilled in me by my number 2 at the mobile operation, is we get 1% better with every event.
Yeah, there you go. That's great. Same idea.
2% though. That's 100% better
Than yours?
than mine.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not doing it full time yet. I mean, throw yourself a bone. I'm busting your balls. It's the same idea.
Okay. 2% better, by definition, is a lot, though. 1% better, by definition, is a lot.
I agree.
Every single day to show up.
I think it's the reminder that oftentimes when we have a successful service or a successful event, we have this feeling like, all right, man, I fucking nailed it.
We're on top of the world.
I did it. Can't get any better. And the reality is I don't want anyone that works with me. I don't want me to feel that way. We can always do better. There are always better ways to achieve what we've achieved. If you don't think that, you're not cut from the kind of cloth I'm cut from. You're not speaking a language I'm used to. So we call it 1%, call it 2%. It largely doesn't matter. This is not something I can actually calculate. I don't get the abacus out and be like, all right, well, it was 16 pepperonis. The spacing was right. It's not what I'm not doing that. It's a mentality.
It is a mentality.
Yeah,
it is a mentality to just get better and to learn from everything, the successes, the downfalls, and finding ways to really just say, it'll get better next time.
Exactly. And I want to point out, you said try to learn from the successes and the downfalls. I firmly believe we only learn from the downfalls. I don't learn a lot when I succeed.
100%.
I learn that I'm proud of myself. I did great. Give myself the old pat on the back. But when I think about all the lessons that I've learned in life, it's when I fell. It's when I was down. It's when I hit bottom. That's when I've learned the most.
Take me back to one of your earlier failures. Before the brick and mortar.
Yeah.
That changed your life or your worldview.
I don't know if that's a big statement, man. I don't know. I mean, there's not many things that have changed my life and worldview that I could really pull out of a hat. But I will tell you, there was one event that I did that really put my life and what I was doing at the time in perspective. Because much like you, I had a full-time job that didn't fill a cup. I was good at it. I didn't love it. But I was doing this on the side. Right? And the brand existed. I was operating every Sunday at the farmer's market 22 weeks out of the year. And then on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I would do mobile catering events. And I would do them. I was everything, right? Prep cook, dishwasher, chef, contract guy, dude driving the van. I mean, I did all the things. And it was hard. And I soon found that there was a tipping point that was maybe too much. I said yes to something I probably shouldn't have said yes to. I did 2 events on one day. I did the farmer's market on a Sunday, and then a friend of mine asked me to come and do an event at their house for a football game. Towards the end of the season, but I was of the mind hey man, you gotta make hay while you can. So I said yes to the event. I did the event, I got done. It was probably 2 o'clock in the morning on Monday morning. I got back to my house. At that time, I would park my oven in my garage at my house. I had the stack on the oven, and I backed the oven into the garage, and it cracked the face of my mobile oven off. This jacked with the core, it jacked with the infrastructure of the oven itself. Every penny I made doing that extra event times 2, I lost in one fell swoop, and it was just exhaustion and hitting the gas too hard without resting properly. Because I firmly believe all gas, no brakes. But you can't do that unless the fucking tank is full.
And you can't back up too fast without hitting the brakes.
Right.
Fuck. I'm sorry.
No, it sucked. I got out of the truck, I sat on the ground in the alley, and I cried. I didn't know what to do. And then it's what do you do? I have one of the only ovens like that in the state. Do I grab the Yellow Pages? That's a book that you look up numbers for things.
What is that?
Use a telephone. You just dial it. You can Google mobile oven repair guy. I mean, that's not a thing. So then you got to find someone who can do metal fabrication. That's one guy. You find a guy who can do facade tile work with custom tiles I had to order from Forno Bravo. And by the way, I have 6 days to get this fucker done, because I'm back on the road with events I've already taken money for. So now I got a gun to my head, and I got to go back to my job I hate in the morning. So there's the reality is it's not always awesome. Most of the time it's not.
It's not.
If you're lucky in life A very good friend said this to me once. If you're lucky in life, you're 50-50. 50% of the time you're happy. 50% of the time you're the other side of happy. Whatever that emotion might be. Maybe it's sad. Maybe it's in mourning. Maybe it's anger. But if you're lucky, you're happy 50% of the time. I believe that.
Having jumped into the full-time job of restaurateur and leaving the job that you hate.
Yeah. I didn't hate it. It just wasn't for me. I did say I hate it just now, but it's tough because I was good at what I did. It filled my wallet, not my heart.
I'm reluctant to use the word hate myself because I've used it in the past and I feel so bad. It serves a purpose, my job.
Sure.
It's a stepping stone. It's allowed me to buy a house in the Bay Area, all of that stuff.
Balls.
But it does not, I'm empty too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so would you say that going into the restaurant life gave you a better 50-50 percentage?
Immediately. Immediately. It was an immediate impact. Because, some of my first jobs as an adult, or not an adult, as a 14-year-old, I was a fry cook at Arby's. And then I went from there and I worked at Pizza Hut. I worked at a bar called Billy's on Grand. I worked at all these different spots. And that's where my heart soared. I loved it. I loved working at Pizza Hut. I loved delivering pizzas. I loved making pizzas.
Yeah.
I worked at Casetta's here in St. Paul, which is like an institution pizza joint. I loved it. It was not hard. It didn't hurt. It didn't, physically it may have hurt, but it wasn't I gotta go to work.
Yeah.
It never felt that way. And then I went and did the things I was supposed to do. I went to college. I worked at a pizza joint, ran it in Boston called Woody's Grill and Tap. Awesome place. I've sent servers that have worked for me as support kids to Woody's to work. They've worked for 4 years through college at Woody's. Awesome joint. I got out of school, I went a different path. And then when I was about 35, the federal government was tickling the idea of calling pizza a vegetable to keep it on the public school menu. And I thought that was batshit fucking crazy. I had a 1-year-old at the time. And so I started investigating. How do we treat food? Why is pizza considered a vegetable? And also, it's anywhere from 600 to 800 calories a slice in this country. While it's a 16th century peasant food that was meant to replace a plate. Plate were luxury tools. So, yeah, it just changed me. I started really looking at what do I value and did I make the right choices? I spent 15 years after high school, after college to pursue this thing. I made my employer tons of money. I made great money. It had to change.
It had to change. And what was that? Was it just that moment where you saw the federal government and then I'm trying to see if there's a tipping point because I think of change all the time. And for me, it was the conversation with Lee Kendall. I think it's going to be it where I'm just now committed to leaving my job.
Okay.
It was that moment where I'm just I always knew I was going to leave. But now I gave myself the timeline. I'm writing up the plan, everything. Do
they watch the thing? Are we announcing now?
I guess I'm announcing it
now.
now.
I don't think you should do that. I think you should make sure your landing spot's ready, brother.
I can edit it out.
Okay. Sorry.
No. And I'm if not weeks, months in the timeline.
That's great.
So, but anyway, okay, you're right. I probably shouldn't announce in case I got a mole at work. But do you know the tipping point for you?
I had two.
You had two.
My first tipping point was the one I mentioned.
The garage?
No,
I'm just kidding.
that was hey, maybe slow down and maybe don't kill yourself trying to do this. The first tipping point was when the Fed was tickling the idea of calling pizza vegetable. That's what really set the path for me to investigate flour. What's in cheese? Why are we putting non-binders in there? What are the products that we're ingesting, and how do we arrive at having destroyed this 16th century peasant food? That was the Fed. The next tipping point for me, my closest friend in the whole world, other than Bobby, this is pre-Bobby, he introduced me to my wife, was Trey Titcomb. And I've known Trey a long time, and he had a child that was born with trisomy 18. And trisomy 18 is incompatible with life. She was born on my birthday, June 27th, and she lived 2 weeks. And I held her the day she was born, and I held her the day she died. And her entire life, while she was alive, I spent at a desk looking at 2 monitors and massive spreadsheets. And I investigated myself a little bit at that moment and said, what am I saying yes to and what am I saying no to? And so at that moment, I decided I'm going to start saying yes to more things instead of defaulting to no. We tend to default to no. Hey, you want to grab a beer after work? I got shit to do. Whatever it might be. I tried to stop defaulting to no. The other thing I did was I said, this has to happen. This pizza, my business, it has to happen. It didn't have a name yet. I didn't know what I was going to call it, but I made a decision that this is moving forward. Summer Titcomb was her name. And that's been kind of my North Star as to why I said life's too short and I don't want to spend my days doing this. And then I put the boat in the water.
What did that next day look like?
Well, I had a desire to go 100 miles an hour and I didn't have a car to drive, right? I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't know how to do it, right? I didn't know how to, do I buy an oven and put up a website and skirt the health department and sell pizzas out of my yard? Do I try to pop up at a farmer's market? I didn't know how to answer the question. It wasn't probably until about 8 months later or so that my kids went to a local Catholic school, parochial school, and every year they would do a fundraiser. And Mary Beth Stotts, who was doing all the food for the fundraiser, said, hey, Pete, every year you donate with John Montague, you guys do a beer pizza experience where you teach everybody how to make pizzas, he brings the beer, and all the families pay $100 to attend, and the thing sells out in minutes every year. Why don't you just make everybody pizza at the fundraiser? And I was like, It's like January 2nd she asked me that question. I was like, that's a great idea. I should do that. Because again, I'm saying yes to more. So then I thought, well, if I'm going to kind of do a thing and feed 300 people, I need equipment. So I borrowed a mobile oven. It was handmade. I rented a 9-foot pizza prep station. I put it in a stairwell of a church. And I did prep for 2 weeks getting ready for this. And in that time also, I decided to name it and incorporate the business. So February 1 is when Red Wagon Pizza was formally created.
Okay.
Documents file. We called it Red Wagon Pizza because pizza in my life started with my grandfather. That's the picture on the wall in the dining room. I've done it with my parents growing up in Detroit. The house on that wall right there is the house I did it in, the yellow one. I've raised my kids doing it. So pizza in my family is a legacy. It goes through multiple generations. And I'm not Italian, I'm an Irish kid. I don't subscribe to ideology of saying it's Italian or it's this or that. Pizza's been in our country for over 100 years. I make a modern American craft pizza.
Love it.
I've redefined my entire category. It's a little New York, it's a little Midwest, it's a little Neapolitan, neo-Neapolitan. There's no one category for my pizza. So it's modern American pizza. So I wanted an iconic image that transcended generations, that was decidedly American. Red Wagon Pizza Company was born.
Simple, clean, lives up to the style of pizza that you're creating. Beautiful. Let's take a step back though, because the people who are thinking like, oh shit, 8 months of just wanting to go 100 miles per hour, but not knowing what to do. Like, can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure.
Fear.
Fear. Yeah, I had a mortgage. I had 2 small kids. They had, tuition at the Catholic school, and I was in my mid-30s. I wasn't making a ton of money, so I wasn't like I was flush and like, oh hey, I got an extra fucking $500,000 here. Let's just go for it. I didn't have enough money to buy the oven. I borrowed money from my dad to buy the oven, and took out a loan and sold him shares. Once you have kids, right? You have a child. You get to a point where you're like, I can't risk a lot. It's not like I'm 20 anymore, and I can just be like, hey, I'm going to move to Sicily and do this now. There's other things you have responsibilities for. So while I wanted to go 100 miles an hour, I knew I couldn't just go for it. I needed to figure out, how do I make my way through this labyrinth without clipping a wing? So I had to figure that out. So the first door that opened that seemed very, very risk-free was this event we did, right, for the school. I created the business. Now the business exists.
You're incorporated.
Yep, I'm an S Corp. I'm ready to go. Filed with the Secretary of State, tax ID, lock and load, logo created. My brother drew it for me, Ryan. Couldn't pay him. Gave him 1% of the business. I just started building it one brick at a time, and I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like. I knew that I needed a name. I now have a name. I did the event. Everyone said, gosh, you should do grad parties. I was like, gosh, that's a great idea. I heard there was going to be a farmer's market literally adjacent to the parking lot that I had done this event. So I went down and I talked to the guy who owned the hardware store, and I said, I'd like to be considered. And he said, well, there's this other mobile pizzeria that's in town that wants the spot. And I said, well, I think it's really up to you. I would use this as a place to incubate and grow my business. I'd have to buy an NSF-approved oven. I'd have to get a commissary. I'd have to do all of these things. And I'm happy to do it if you pick me. And he says, well, why should I pick you? I said, it really comes down to style. I'm a pizza nerd. I'm sure that guy's a pizza nerd. I've had his food. He makes great pizza. I make great pizza. I think it's really up to you. I think what we should do is have me come down. I'll make pizza in your parking lot for 2 hours. You can try it. And if I align with your ideology of what the market should be, then you should pick me. But I said, at the end of the day, it's a pizza thing in a farmer's market with fresh produce and live fire. Everyone's going to love it. They're going to smell the wood burning. It goes into October. This is a win no matter who you pick. It's just a matter of taste at this point. So he said, great. So I came down 3 days later, tried it out. I was picked on the spot. The next day I said, well, shit. I got to come up with like 30 grand and buy an oven. Where do I get that? God damn. So I called the guys out at La Pagnole in Maine Wood Heat. They have those beautiful copper domes that Ann Kim's got over at Lola. They've got mobile ones. So I started thinking about that. Well, those ovens don't have a spot for refrigeration. So how do you build a kitchen? What do you need? Do I need a tent? A pop-up tent's $300. And I started doing the math. I need dough trays. Shit, how many dough trays do I need? I bought 8. So
just piecing it all together, figuring it out. From that moment on, it seems like that was like the minute you were like, okay, I have a residency, I'm going to commit. Is that when you quit your job?
Nope.
Tell me more.
Why? Because I didn't pull an income. We did $75,000 in total revenue the first summer. 22 weeks. 75 grand.
That's not bad.
That's great. I operated 4 hours a week.
That's not bad at
all.
It
was wonderful, but I didn't pay myself, right? I paid for equipment. I needed more equipment. The equipment I bought broke. So I reinvested. By the second year, at the end of the second year, we had turned down on average 6 mobile events for every one we booked. So in turn, what we ended up doing was I sat down and I said, all right, do I buy 6 more ovens, get a big commissary, or do I build out a 50-seat restaurant? What's that math look like? So I signed up for liveplan.com, which I super encourage you to do. I still have my account, not sponsored.
Yet.
And I started writing my plan. It was a really easy tool to walk through. I also picked up the book, Art of the Start by Guy Kawasaki. He was a software dude out of Silicon Valley, and he talks about how to start your business. And it's not like a playbook. It's like more of like a pep talk, if you will. Like I would read that book and I would like throw it. And I got to get into it. I got to start worrying, like get these things in line to make it happen. So I wrote a 70-page business plan. Figured out who buys what they read, what address. I figured out how much it was going to cost me to build it out. And I went to the SBA and I asked for the money. They wanted me to have about 40 grand more in cash. So I took on some very small investors, silent partners, by selling them shares of the business. And then we started building out. I signed the lease in June of 2014. We then started construction in July, and we opened in November. And I quit my job, to answer your question, in August. They did not know I was opening a restaurant until after I left. I actually was photographed for a local magazine called Minneapolis St. Paul Magazine, and they did an issue on best pizza. And I was covered for the mobile part. And my beet pizza was actually on the cover of the magazine.
Just the pizza, not your face.
Just the pizza, not my face. No, so my company knew I had Red Wagon Pizza. They knew I was doing this on the weekends. They knew I was at the farmer's market. I didn't try to hide it from them. But it was my hobby that I did on the side for fun. I didn't pay myself. For all I knew, it was just a hobby. And that article came out, and nowhere in the article did we talk about it. In fact, Stephanie March, one of the amazing writers for MSP Mag, saw me in here. And when that article was coming out, I was like, can you do me a favor? And I know you know some stuff. Maybe don't say anything, because I need every check I can get until I shut the valve off. That's when I said, if you're going to go for it, have some plan.
Yeah.
How are you going to pay yourself? How are you going to make rent? I did not have that plan. I almost lost my house 4 times in foreclosure in the first 5 years. I cashed in every 401k Roth IRA I could imagine to keep this thing going and to open it.
I have some stocked up in retirement funds. I have some in my brokerage. I have some income right now from the podcast and catering. It's not enough to completely replace it. But I figure that if I go in full time and all of my time is used up recruiting clients, I have a shot. And
Yeah.
at the very least.
You have a shot no matter what. The reality is this is
Give me
hard.
the reality.
Failure rates are high. I'm not going to spout out the percentages, but there are a percentage of failures for the first year of a brick and mortar restaurant, and it is very, very high. I want to say the last time I heard numbers was in the 90% of restaurants fail in the first year. 75 in the next 2. I mean, this is real. That
Risky.
is very real. There are 70,000 independent pizzerias in the United States. And that's just pizza, not to mention all the other cuisine out there. So if you're going to go for it, I want you to get real comfortable with the idea that every investment account you've ever had, imagine draining all of it. And it's gone. And if you're not willing to do that, then what's the number? What does it have to get to where you're like, okay, now I'm going to rip the cord and not do it.
Oh.
And stop. And now I'm going to go find work, and I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah. No. I think for me, personally, if I get to that number, like let's say I drain it by 80%, then I'll go look for a part-time job.
Sure.
To support. But I don't think I'm going to give up on this.
I'm not suggesting you do. I'm suggesting that
when I heard pull the cord, that's what I thought you meant.
No. I'm suggesting if you're going to go all in and pull the cord on your full-time job, you got to remember it's all gas, no brakes, baby.
It's a grind. Let's go.
There's no failure. It doesn't fail.
It can't.
If there's a backup plan, you're fucked. If there's a fucking golden parachute, you're fucked.
I know.
There's no option for failure, because that's the extra tank I have every January. That's the extra tank I have every June when I'm fucking on E and my whole team's on E. Because now I got to dig deep. Now I got to make sure my guys are feeling good, supported, and not hitting a wall.
Yeah.
So I'm going to work even more. Because I can't do this business without June revenue.
That's fucking crazy. You are, wow. You're just spitting so many like facts at me right now that it's hard for me to process at the same time and ask questions. I get
it. Don't worry.
No. I think having no golden parachute, it's like burning the ships.
Exactly. So there should be no fucking number. that you're at 80% and then you say, fuck it. Okay, so let's math that out. Like, let's say you open and you go for your thing, you borrow some money, you're in the hole to like 300 grand. You've drained your investment accounts to the 80% mark, and now you're like, I don't know what your numbers are, but maybe it's another 500 grand you've drained. And now, because you don't want to tap that last 2 or 3,
There's really no
you're
point.
like, fuck it. I'm going to pull the plug and go. No, there's no pulling the plug. You're like, fuck yeah, all in.
Yeah.
You don't get to that number, whatever the number is. Maybe it's 50 grand. And you're in already to 50 grand. And you got 30 grand in reserves. Are you going to really not do the extra 30?
I'm not, to be fair, I'm not doing a build out like you are. But
It doesn't matter. I'm saying
you're right.
you're going to invest into your thing.
I hear you.
It's all chips in.
All chips in. I think we should approach life like that. And I think there's just that fear in me. The 8 months that you spent kind of like, I'm living that right now. So that's all I'm thinking about. It's like, fuck, do I need a backup plan? Do blah, 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 blah. I'm like literally writing down my exit plan for my wife on this trip.
I love it.
With a downside.
It should be a rough draft. And then call me.
Yeah.
Because you have my number. I'm on speed dial, I hope. There's no, I don't have answers, but I'll have more questions for you to think about. I think the reality is there's no greater gift than going for it. But it's a decision that you can't change.
You have to commit.
You have to commit. And when you commit, you got to go all in. You're married, right?
Yes.
What's that threshold for margin then when you decide to call it quits? Is it like, I'll be married for 25 years and then we're done?
Oh.
Like, do you know what I'm saying?
No,
You're fucking all in, right?
There's no
backup plan. No. You're all in.
Yeah. I have in my mind, like, if we hit X amount on savings, then we go move in with my family. If we can't move in with my family because it's too draining on our mental health, then I'll go get a part-time job in order to keep supporting us.
But how are you going to do that if you're ripping 100 hours a week trying to keep your thing going? I'm not trying to discourage you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to suggest that if anyone listening or watching this is going to go for it, there's no one size fits all. It's one size fits one. And you got to decide, how am I going to do this? Where's the money going to come from? What's my financial need to achieve? If I've got to do X amount of events at this kind of profitability, then I can do it. Well, all right, go do that for a fucking year while you're doing your now thing and see what happens.
I hear you. Create the proof. The demand has to be there before you pull the cord.
Exactly. When I left my job, I had turned down on average 6 events for every one I booked. I knew I had it. That June 1st of 2012, when I sold my first piece of pizza to a human being, I puked for an hour, 2 hours before we opened. I've been making pizzas my whole fucking life. I got 10,000 fucking hours into this before I named my business. I knew how to make pizza. I'd never tried to sell my food. Selling your food is a different animal.
Okay.
So before I sold that slice, I didn't know if it was going to work. I felt very different 2 years later with the stats, the ability to say, these are the people that eat my food. These are the folks that come after this experience. This is my take on pizza. I am expressing a fine dining level of cuisine, a scratch kitchen cuisine, heritage pork, duroc, grinding out the bacon, garlic confit. Like, I have a thing that people love. Now, how do I, not using this word in a negative way, but how do I exploit that? How do I lean into that and bring them along on my story?
You talk about, what was I going to ask you? Oh, one size fits one size fits all. I think, to make this, one size fits one, it's not one size fits all. To make this more generalizable for people listening.
Yeah.
When you're getting started and you're getting those like 6 bookings that you have to deny, right? What did you do to make yourself more marketable? What worked for you to drive up that excitement, those bookings?
When I was turning down 6 events for every one I booked,
yeah.
What did I do to make myself more marketable?
Yeah, so what created?
Or what did I do to make myself that marketable?
Yes.
I understand. Scarcity. I had one oven. I had to say no a lot. People like lines. People like scarcity. They just love it. I got a guy, he's awesome, but he only operates 1 day a week for 4 hours at a farmer's market. That's marketing. I didn't care about how much money I made there. Every bit of it was marketing. Get people excited about what you do. I had to give away a lot of shit in the beginning. I would do events for free. Just get people fired up.
You talk about not making money for the first 5 years, right?
I didn't pay myself for 5 years.
Pay yourself, right. That all just went back into the business.
Back into the business. Reinvest.
Like what? Like
All
new
of it.
equipment?
Didn't matter. New equipment. I didn't have pizza boxes with my logo on them until 2 years ago. Because it's expensive. So more important things were necessary. To give you an example, when we opened the restaurant, I bought all the equipment I could afford to buy. Right? A lot of it was used. Refrigeration was new. That's the rule. Never buy used refrigeration. It's too scary. If there's a leak in one of the lines, you're never going to find it, and you'll waste money. Always buy new refrigeration. So I could only afford a pizza prep table that was about $3,000. It lasted 1 year. But now I knew. We got it. We're still open. We're still cranking. Then I bought a Delfield dual refrigerated pizza prep for $10,000. And I financed half of it because I didn't have the cash to pay for it all at once. That same refrigerator that's still cranking and doing great all these years, 9 years later, is $18,000 because the price of equipment has gone up. But it's the same fucking model number. It's same everything.
That's crazy.
No different.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So really just investing in yourself, making it all scarce so that people want you. This is the plan. This was the way for you.
Yeah. And I think it works. It just works. People want what they can't have in so many ways. We already know that, right? So if you apply that same kind of notion to cuisine and say, hey, I'm going to offer 4 catering windows a week for my pizza program. And that's it. It's between Friday and Sunday. When they're gone, they're gone. Right? See what happens. I teach pizza classes here. Over the course of the last 12 years, I have an email list of roughly 20,000 emails, which I do not know how to market to because I'm not a marketer. I am a pizza chef. So every so often, I'm like, we should let the people know that I'm doing a pizza class. Let's do a Pizza with Pete and open it up to the public. So we've got 10 slots. I think we charge $85, $100 a slot. I forget the number we charge. So we hit send. July 19th, send. 10 slots. 2 minutes later, they're sold out. Send another one. Another date. Sold out. Sold out. So now we've sold out 4 Pizza with Pete's open to the public. We'll generate roughly about $4,000 from that. It'll take me a collective 8 hours to generate that revenue for the business. And it's meaningful. It helps. It's another thing that will help the business. And I love it. Fuck, I love it. I love teaching people how to make pizza.
That's what's up. I want to get back to the whole feast or famine thing because these extracurriculars that you do, the pizza class, the mobile catering, tell me about how it helps because we sort of talked about it earlier. You do sometimes $14,000 in January.
No, $14,000 a week in January.
$14,000 a week in
and
January.
up to the highest watermark's been about $90,000 a week in June.
What do these extracurriculars mean for you in terms of the extra offerings, the pizza classes, the frozen pizza?
So our frozen pizza, that was really meaningful over COVID when Guy did the Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives COVID edition, 3 shows that launched into a later takeout edition of Triple D. That was an incredible impact on the business in May of 2020. It's a very different business now. I mean, it's meaningful in that we continue to be able to sell pizzas across the country, but it's not moving the needle in a meaningful way. Every bit helps. So I think the Pizza with Pete, we probably did 30, 40 grand in revenue last year on out of the upwards of 3 million we did. Again, it's very small comparatively, but it helps because every bit helps because I'm grinding it out. You got to grind it out. And it gets people excited about it, right? Now we teach these pizza classes. I've been recently sponsored by Uni, and now I can get them excited about the Uni ovens that they have at home. They buy their dough or their flour, my sauce, my seasonings, they buy from me, and they make them at home. And now I'm the guy that showed them how to spin out a dough so they don't lose their minds at home. Because they buy all this equipment, and then they don't know how to spin the dough out. That is like literally everyone's number one complaint. I don't know how to spin the dough out. How do you stretch dough out? That's what we do. That's literally the class. I've done a master level class, but so for me, the extracurriculars that you talk about, they're the things that fill my cup. I love teaching 18 4-year-olds how to make pizza on a Sunday afternoon. I mean, it's nuts, but it fills the cup.
Fills the cup, and it allows you to hit the gas pedal a little bit more, right? Because when
Yeah.
you're tired and you're working the long hours, you do something that fills your cup and makes you money. Oh,
Bingo.
it's a go.
Bingo.
Yeah, I like that. Talk to me about mobile catering. How much does that provide for your business?
Well, I would tell you, between the patio and mobile catering, that's the big delta. I mean, I think it was just a few days ago, we did, I want to say $7,000, $8,000 one day on mobile catering when we did 11 here.
Wow.
That's on a Saturday in June. So we closed out the day at upwards of 18 grand in one day, which was like, what, 40% of it was done by me on the road. 2 people on the road for 12 hours. Now, there's a lot of support in the restaurant, of course, right? We've got my incredible culinary team. We've got the front of house. We've got my chief operating officer, Carrie Wallstead, who helped book the event. She is the brain of a magician, and she can book an event, and she can tell me down to the size pan I need to bring of mise en place for each event. And so it's flawless execution. These things would be impossible without the team I have to execute them. Because everyone knows it's fucking June.
You are doing how many events in one day?
2 is I love when we get to do 2. We have done 3 on occasion. Those are pretty nutso. But 2's the gold standard. I think we've got a couple double headers, is what I call them, coming up. And then the balance of June, I think, is done with double headers. We only have 1 a day.
Around June, it's the busiest because of graduations, I'm guessing?
We do a lot of grad parties. That's where we really cut our teeth in the beginning, is we would do graduation parties. And because of that, I think it's what we've done the longest for catering. And so it's what we do the most of now. So we'll do weddings, though, bar mitzvahs, you name it.
Are you charging per pizza or per person?
So we charge per pizza with a minimum. So minimum is 30 pizzas per event. We have a setup fee that's fixed no matter what. And then our minimum pizza count goes up based on distance.
Oh.
So as I go further away from here, the minimum goes up from a pizza count. And then what we suggest to our client is, how do you build that payment structure? Meaning, if it's a graduation party, as an example, they may invite a class of 200. Not all 200 kids are going to come. Not all 200 kids are going to come and have a meal worth of food. So what we advise our clients to do is say, okay, if you're going to have 200 kids, do you want to average 2 slices per person, a slice and a half per person, 1 slice per person? How do you want to do that? And because we've got so much experience, we can guide them and help them find their own voice. A lot of it has to do with when they book. If you book an event on the first Saturday of June, and it's a high school that has 200 graduates, the likelihood of you being one of a lot of graduation parties in one day is very high.
Yeah.
The likelihood of everyone coming in and eating a meal's worth of pizza is very, very low. So how do you figure out the number? And that's a conversation. It's, again, one size fits one.
That's excellent. That's excellent advice. Why does it cost more per pizza the farther you drive out?
It doesn't cost more per pizza. The minimum number of pizzas we make increases.
So
I won't drive an
30.
hour and a half to make 35 pizzas.
I see.
I will drive an hour and a half to make 65 pizzas,
Where's the threshold at? Like
we won't go further than about 30 miles.
Okay.
But it's like, I believe it's every increment of increase. So if it's 5 miles, it's this, 10 miles, etc. No more than 30. Worth your time. It's just, the reality, it has to be worth the time and it has to be worth the effort. I mean, driving that 6,000 pound oven around with equipment, plugged in, gas, it's hard. And we'll do it for the right number. But the other thing too is that if you want me to go that far, the likelihood of me being able to do another event that day is pretty low. Right? So the closer it is, the lower the number is. The further away, the likelihood of us booking an event near there is very low.
And is your price per pizza more expensive than what it is at the restaurant?
Yes.
It is.
Absolutely. I'm building a restaurant in their driveway.
What's the delta? Like if your cheese pizza is
18.
18 here?
Yep.
What's the cheese pizza for?
Every pizza, no matter what's $40 on the road.
Sheesh.
Yep.
That's boss.
You gotta get paid what you're worth, right? I literally build a restaurant wherever they want me to build it.
Yeah.
So if they want Domino's or something cheap, they should do that.
Yeah.
They want an experience with high quality cuisine, that's us. And we're not for everybody.
No,
we are not for everybody.
That's
I
my
respect
question.
that. I respect that.
When you were talking about this with Eric about like doing your live plan, right?
Yeah.
You said you did market research. You did, demographics of the people here. You said something about like figuring out what people read.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like, are you saying like what kind of?
Well, so when you subscribe to the Wall Street Journal, that your name's on a list. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So you're looking for people who subscribe to the New York Times or the Financial Times or something like that?
Not so much that. I'm not looking for that. What I'm trying to figure out is what do people in this neighborhood read? Who's here? I can't create my customer. I'm in a community. So what does this community read?
And why is that important?
Because it indicates the kind of person they are. It indicates the kind of food they might like.
The assumption is if people are reading the newspaper, they're likely educated.
They're likely very old.
Very old.
Well, I mean, I'm joking because like who fucking reads a newspaper anymore? I wrote this business plan like 10 years ago.
Oh, okay. But did that insight help?
I think it did. I think it gave me a glimpse of, are they educated? Is it a higher education? Did they go on and get a secondary degree?
Yeah.
What's their median income?
Yeah.
What are they used to? I think the biggest thing that I learned was that there's 8,000 plus households within 1 mile. They spend $1.5 million a month going out to dinner. They don't travel more than a mile to do it.
1.5 million is like this neighborhood spends 1.5 million.
Correct.
Okay.
What I learned from my investigation of this community where I wanted to put my restaurant was that that's how much they spend. They are looking for the whole farm to table movement, which was alive and well back then. They want responsible creations. They're not going to be okay with commodity pork. They're not going to be okay with styrofoam containers. They're not going to be okay with, do you know what I'm saying?
But how did you make that connection based off of like dollar amount spent in a month? Or how did you make that connection with age? Like what did you have to find out to know that was true? That they would spend the money on, you called it farm to table craft or something.
Well, I think that you have the farm to table movement that really came up, I want to say 12 years ago, is like really the beginning of that movement. And our organic and Whole Foods before Amazon bought it. All of these things where you would go into a Whole Foods and you'd say, well, I'm going here because I want to buy this mushroom. And I talked about this with Eric. I want to buy this mushroom because no human hand has ever touched it before, right? It was plucked from this mountain and wherever. And then you've got people that buy like that. And then you have other people that are just like, I want every variety of mushroom ever. I don't care if it was grown in your shoe. I want to try all of them. And you've got two types of people. So Who are they? What do they read? Where do they live? Why do people shop at Whole Foods versus shopping at Kroger's? Why do people shop at a farmer's market versus shopping at Sam's Club? Who are those people and what drives them? If I were to put a pizzeria in a neighborhood that people predominantly went to Costco on Saturdays, they liked big box retail restaurants like Applebee's and Chili's, Cheesecake Factory. Those were their like pinnacle of success for dining out. Now, I'm not throwing shade at those things. That is part of our world. That's part of the communities around the United States.
But it's not your customer.
It's not my customer. My pizza, and I get people from the community out in the suburbs that will often say, you got to go here, you got to go there. And the reality is, doesn't mean, just because you want me there, doesn't mean my customer's also there. Mm. So you got to figure out, where do you want to put your building? Where do you want to put your thing? If it's in the community you're in, figure out who's in my community.
The whole Costco and Applebee's things hits because I live in that community.
Right. So my product probably wouldn't do as well, and of course there will be outliers. There will be people that are like, oh my God, it's amazing. But by and large, if I start talking about commodity pork, they might not know what I'm talking about. Not that they're uneducated, they're just maybe uninterested.
How do people find out about you in terms of like, how do I get him to book? How do I book him for a party or something like that?
Word of mouth mostly. I mean, I don't advertise. I run my own social channels. I email people occasionally about pizza classes. It's usually word of mouth.
Yeah.
I did some stuff on the Food Network a couple times. That helped. I've been lucky enough to not only invest in this location, but I've invested in this community that I feel we have kind of a name for ourselves to some extent. And now it's just don't fuck it up. Don't fuck it up. If they pull the door, because let's agree, the business plan is flawed. I am going to toil over this thing. I'm going to refine recipes. I'm going to partner with farmers. I am going to invest in equipment. I'm going to build the place out. I am going to worry about every single detail. We measure our ingredients to the gram, and I put that level of detail inside the dining room as well. So I'm going to do all of that. Then I'm going to flip the lights on, unlock the door, and just fucking hope for the best. That's the business plan. It is flawed.
It's scary.
Super scary. So you have to invest in everything that could impact that. The kids in the neighborhood, the schools, the teachers, the fabric of the community you have to become part of.
And that is why this job is a grind.
Yeah.
Because you're nonstop doing everything that you can for this business. That's beautiful.
It is, but it's scary because then like I walk out of here and I in this little intersection, everybody kind of knows who I am within 300 feet. I go that way a while, nobody knows who I am. But in this intersection, I live across the street. I'm the unofficial fucking mayor of 54th and Penn. And I'm on. When I'm outside my house, I'm on. When I'm out and walking to the hardware store, I'm on.
You have to be on all
Yeah, and thank God people know I'm kind of a dick. Any other questions, man?
No.
Did I inspire you or did I discourage you?
You inspired me to go harder. You discouraged me to quit my job right away.
What's your wife's name?
Chelsea.
You're welcome, Chelsea.
She believes in me.
I'm not saying it's not believing in you.
Yeah.
I'm saying have a landing zone.
Landing zone.
You need a plan. I want you and Chelsea to stay together to have more kids. You're not going to do that if you just rip it because you're fed up with your job.
Well, part of the condition of us having one more kid is for me to quit my job. And she set that, not me.
All right, that's fine.
But I do want to...
How about change it to say, we will have a path to change the job. And I think the thing is this. Here's my advice to you, if I could give you some personal advice. You want to quit your job. You have to have your thing operating to a certain level in order to do that, right? So imagine you already quit your job and make it happen while you have your job now.
Which just means grind it out more.
Correct. get the notion that grinding it is bad out of your fucking vocabulary. Because the easiest it's going to be for you is right fucking now. You have income coming in, and then you can test out if this is going to work.
Will do.
Then I'll come and see you.
Final question for you. No right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
What's good dough?
Good dough. Oh, what do you, I mean, I think it's everybody's personal opinion. I think that if you're somebody who likes to use Caputo 00, for whatever reason, I don't subscribe to that personally. I hope you have a very detailed fermentation program that helps build flavor. I go a different route. I buy flour that has flavor inherently in it when it's grown, and then I just create an environment for it to talk. And I don't get in its way. So I think it really depends on the kind of style you want to go with. I think living by the notion that there's only one fucking way to do it is the wrong dough. And the right dough is the one that you are super excited about. That you're in love with its flavor, and you're in love with the process, and you're excited to share your process with other people. That's the right dough.
Thank you so much, Peter.
Right on, man. So good to meet you, bro. Pizza buddies.
Let's go. Well, there you have it. My conversation with Chef Peter Campbell of Red Wagon Pizza. Peter, thank you so much for being on the show. I truly appreciate the words of advice, the words of encouragement, and I'm sure you're going to help a lot of people listening. So thank you so much for that. To you, the listener, let's go. If you enjoyed Peter's story, if you liked his advice, make sure to let him know it's good dough. Links to his social are going to be in the show notes. Also, please share this episode with anyone that you think would benefit from it. Facebook, email, text, or Instagram. Go ahead and share it. I'd greatly appreciate that. And while you're on Instagram, please remember to DM me at What's Good Dough. That way we can continue the conversation. Let me know what you liked about the show, what you didn't like about the show. That way we can continue creating better content over time that benefits both you and me. Please remember to like, rate, subscribe to the show wherever you're listening or watching. I appreciate you so much for doing that, and I appreciate you so much for spending the time with me. I love you. Until next time. Peace.